Well, it's been a long time since I've done this and recorded a podcast, but today was really hard. I've been grateful enough to have people in my life, and Rachel had people in her life that are very special, and her best friend and her maid of honor, Jessica, her brother, is the president of the Springfield Thunderbirds AHL hockey team. And a while back, he messaged me asking me if I wanted to be involved in something that's called Hockey Fights Cancer. And it's NHL, AHL initiative that they honor and raise money for the cure for cancer every year, and he wanted to see if it was something we could do in Rachel's name, and we messaged back and forth several times, and finally we talked to each other on the phone and discussed everything, and I'm just very grateful that on the 24th of this month, November, 3 days before Rachel's birthday, they'll be playing, the Springfield Thunderbirds will be playing at home, and they will be launching this foundation, and they'll be raising money through the sales of jerseys and donations. Jerseys with her name on it. Another young fan who passed away from cancer named Alex Blaze, and their names will be on the jerseys. And today I met with him. I met with Nate Costa, who's the president of the team, and a couple of his staff members, and this really nice guy, Pete. And we talked about, they interviewed me about Rachel and about the cause and everything, and they filmed it, and I'm not sure what they're going to do with that, but I feel blessed that that's going to happen, but it brings up a lot of stuff for me, and that I try to avoid thinking about. Sometimes I get hit with these thoughts that I can't get over, and a lot of the thing that I struggle with is thinking about the days when Rachel couldn't speak, and she could speak. She was starting to be confused a little bit, and her organs were starting to shut down a little bit, but she was still coherent when she was home on hospice, until every day I would change her feeding tube. She had an intravenous feeding tube, giving her nutrients and things like that, and the hospice care team insisted that this was probably doing her more harm than good, which I don't know. Rachel, when she could speak, she said, no, I don't want to stop the feeding tube, because I don't want to. She was against anything. She thought, she wasn't even pro-hospice. She thought that they were a brigade of death seekers, really. But and the nurse that was pushing for it, we ended up requesting a different nurse, because she was just very pushy about telling us that Rachel was going to die and it was going to happen soon. And so many people, healthcare wise, were pressing that on us, and I think what they wanted is for us to accept that, which we never did. we never did. And it's not because we're ignorant, but we were treated as if we were being ignorant. We knew very well what was going on. We weren't in denial. We were in defiance. And Rachel needed me to believe in her, and that's what I did all the way up into the end. And there's just some things that really I wrestle with. When she couldn't speak, it seemed like people started speaking for her, and oftentimes I grew so in tune with what Rachel was thinking and what she wanted and her preferences that she trusted me to speak for her, on all things. And when she lost the ability to speak, it was hard for me to insist sometimes that what was best for Rachel. It was also near the end of her life, so I think people that were her family, wanted to, there were things they wanted to happen that they thought were best for her too. And in the end, that was fine. And there were some things that I still just can't, I have a hard time with, and just I'm just trying to give you examples of what goes through someone's head after something like this happens. And there was the thing that I was thinking about tonight was so I was flipping through my pictures, and there's a picture of Rachel with a braid in her hair. And this was during the time where we did eventually stop the TPN feeding, and she went into a deep sleep for about almost 24 hours. And it was scary for me. And when she woke up, she couldn't really speak much. She was extremely weak. So in my eyes, the TPN feeding was giving her some energy. And I still think that I went against my gut and said it was okay because everybody else seemed to think it was the right thing to do. And when I look back, I think about the people who were involved in the decision and helping make the decision, and I think to myself, why did I even ask other people? Because I don't think there was anyone else who really knew intimately what the details of Rachel's day-to-day and what she was wanted and what she her disposition on things. And I think if she could have weighed in, she would have said, no, make sure they don't stop my TPN. So, but they were, the nurse was so pushy about it that we finally said okay. And of course, she waited till everyone was gone. It was just me and Rachel in the house. But this picture for her in a braid, her Aunt Kathleen or somebody had braided her hair, and it's possible that that's what Rachel wanted. I think she did say, I don't know how it happened, but she kept reaching for this braid, and the way Rachel kept her head was so, it's just hard to explain. You wonder if when someone's so helpless and powerless over their own body, you have to, I was lucky enough to know, to remember the way she liked things, and she got very hot and very cold at times, and I was pretty in tune with that, but I kept a fan going because it helped her breathe. And a lot of people would come in and shut off the fan thinking she was freezing cold, but she wasn't, or put blankets over her and she was very hot most of the time. So, and I learned that just from living in the hospital with her and sleeping with her every night. And those things were hard to try to explain to people because I didn't want to sound pushy. But there was one night where I took her braid out because she kept reaching for the back of her head, and I could tell she wanted to take the braid out of her hair. And I think they put it back in, and oh man, it's like you get caught up in those things during that time. I got caught up on, and I was losing control over what I had. Rachael had given me so much control over. While she was in the hospital and we were living there, sleeping there every night, I would be upset that not as many visitors would be allowed to come in. I would think, geez, maybe this is a time where she should be letting some visitors in, or I would get mad that there was a lack of guests, but and I wanted other people to be intimate with Rachael's treatment and know the ins and outs and her preferences. But the closer it got towards the end, I held on to those things even tighter. And when she came home on hospice and her bed setup was downstairs, I panicked because I know how private she was, and I just didn't know if that was right for her. And she expressed that she wanted to be upstairs, but in the end, I think she preferred to be down there because she was. You can imagine being in that state, and you want all the love you can get, but it's little things like that. And I wrote some notes too. While in the living room next to her bed, I would write notes about what was going on. Some of the notes were not nice, just not nice, because I was angry. I was just angry. Rachael had some serious preferences with people. The closest people in her life, she had strong opinions about. Of course, she loved them all, but she had some serious trust issues, and I'm sure she, I don't know. I just I had become the gatekeeper for those things to make sure, with just a look, that I could, from Rachael, when she was, healthy in her disease, she would unspoken things. She would give me a look, and I would know to tell someone maybe it's enough, or that she's tired, and so I got to know that stuff pretty well. And it's hard in the end. In the end, there, you lose a little power, and you lose some of the privacy that you had together, and that stuff. I'm trying not to focus on that stuff. It doesn't really matter anymore. But I just felt so. It's the most connected I've ever felt with her, and it's just this. I felt like we were a single unit. So to have her unable to speak and going through all that, and I hope that in the end it was okay for her. That's all. Throughout her treatment, part of me being, so knowledgeable about all that stuff was because I didn't work during that time, really. I did like a little bit of driving, and I had a job that I made my own hours for a little while. But for the most part, I was with Rachael, and through all her appointments and her treatments, and it was because the world has to work. Like her mom had not just started, but she's made this incredible